So we're finally starting on the base, the last thing, just a few tiny parts to put on the Mars hopper itself. Had two ideas for the base. I'll tell you the second one that I didn't go with first. Basically a Lazy Susan, the kind you buy for your kitchen. It's wood, it's polished, it's very clean look, and because the Mars hopper is so big, I thought it'd be kind of nice you can actually turn the model, you know, get a look at everything without actually having to touch it. So I was going to go with that, but I decided to go with the pink foam instead, mainly because I had it and I wanted to get this thing done. Also, once it's on a display in a cabinet, you're not going to be turning it that much. But I thought it was an interesting idea for large models. Look at Lazy Susans for bases, because it's finished wood, it's really nice, and you can get ones for like $10, $20. But yeah, we're going with the pink foam here, and just cut it to a kind of an odd shape, sanded the sides, and put some spackle around it to smooth it out a little bit. And on the base right now, I've kind of built up a little texture, so our final layer of goop that we're going to be putting on is not just completely flat. The good thing about doing another planet like Mars or the Moon, you don't have to do much to it, just dirt and rocks. So I have the Das Pronto clay. I didn't say that. It's Das Pronto clay, just to build up some hills. And we have bark that we're using for rocks. I just put a few down right now so we can cover those with our dirt mixture, so they're not just sitting on the surface, they're kind of, you know, worked in. And for our dirt itself, we have this lovely concoction. Oops, that is getting dust everywhere. This is paper mache pulp. We're going to go with this because we can slather it on fairly easily, and it's going to leave us a little bit of texture, so it's not going to be super smooth, and it's fairly durable. And I got a bunch here. I'm hoping this is enough. I basically am going to mix up all that I have. But we have that. I've added some different bits of gravel for a little bit of texture to it. Once it's down, we'll tamp down some more. We're going to add a bunch of white glue to it so it's sticky and it will stick to the base. Water. And a bunch of brown paint. So if it chips or something, it'll show brown underneath rather than gray. So that's the plan right now. I'm going to go mix all this up and smear it all over the board, and then we'll have to wait a couple days for it to dry. Look at that. That is not too bad of a start for the base. It's kind of amazing. All it is paper pulp and some bark, and we got a little foam for a base, and we got a pretty good, you know, alien landscape. Or actually, we could, if we paint this correctly, it could be Earth. So yeah, very cheap and very effective. So the painting process now, I could just do this one color, but that'd be rather boring. I want to have a little variation in the color of the Earth, quote unquote. Well, it's actually dirt because we're doing Mars. I started off, base coated the whole thing after the primer. I used some whole red, and that's going to give us that's our dark tone, and we're going to build up some lighter colors on top of that. And I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be using a variety of colors. I have some here. I'm going to try some. We got red leather. I got saddle brown, cavalry brown. I think I'm going to skip on, and I got a few that are a bit more orange, parasite brown and tan. I'm just going to spray these around, figure out what works best. We're going to get some color variation in the base. I'm going to try for something a bit more brown or maybe a little bit more orange. While Mars is considered red, looking at the actual Mars rover pictures, it's more of a brown range with just a tint of red to it. So this is going to be a little haphazard. I can't record this because I'm doing this on the fly, and we'll see what happens in a moment. We're finishing up the base with a little pigment that's going to give us a nice dirt effect, and we're going to be using a lot here. I have a couple different colors. Mainly what I'm using is Vallejo Burnt Umber and burnt umber and burnt sienna. Also I have some M.L.E.V which is harder to read when it's open. Dark mud and some other rubble with a lighter gray. Mostly I'm using the burnt umber. I'm using the burnt sienna for just a little bit of red, but I'm just doing this very roughly, sprinkling it on, keeping the burnt umber mainly in the lower areas, and just kind of brushing it around. And we're going to do the whole base like this. The important thing is to get into the rocks, because I want that dirt into all the cracks on the rocks. The rocks were fairly simple to paint. I went with something easy. I was going to add have different colors of rocks, but I ended up doing them all a dark color. Oops, that's a bit too much pigment there. Ended up doing all of dark color. I found pictures on Mars of it's really dark rocks. I don't know if they look like iron. They actually look like coal. They could be like iron. They had like a blue tinge to them. And I ended up painting all the rocks with a very thin German gray. And I gave it a very light blue wash after that. But I figured the dark color would work well with the rover, and it would be a nice contrast to the ship itself. But this is pretty much it, I think, for the project. Just getting this stuff down. I gotta spread this all out. And if you never worked with pigments before, there's various ways you can do it. Like I said, I'm doing a very crude way, just sprinkling it on and kind of brushing it around. You can do it as a wash. You can be a bit more precise about the application. We are going to do a little bit of this color on the landing gear of the ship itself as well. Not too much. I don't want a whole lot. We could dirty the whole ship and really weather it, but we're gonna not go that far on it. But once this is done, we're gonna give it a light coat, very light coat of a varnish, which will help seal the pigments in place, and do the ship, and I think we're gonna be about done here. And look at that, it is finally done. I am pulling the plug, calling it quits. The Mars hopper is done. I've had this thing for 2 years, been building it for a year, and yeah, it's done. There's more I could do to it, but no, I'm done. It may not be done, but I'm done. So yeah, I'm going to show you a walk around of the whole kit while the room lighting is on, and then I'll do another one with lighting. I can't show you everything when it's plugged in because I can't spin it because of the cords. But yeah, so this massive project that I have to hold the camera for so you can see everything is finally complete, and it's not perfect by any means. There's a lot of little things that could have used improvement. I could have done better at, but it's finished. That's the most important thing. And I'm not going to point out every little mistake that I made because, come on, why would I do that? But we have the Mars hopper, we have the big dome. Try to remember everything I used on it. We used, I think it was Vallejo white primer was the main base color. We have German gray from Vallejo. Most of the gray stuff is various Vallejo Air colors. I don't remember exactly what I used. I know I mentioned them in a video somewhere, but that's what we have there. Lots of decals from a whole bunch of different kits just to spice it up and make it look a bit more interesting. Added a name. We have our pilot there. It's a Lieutenant Commander R.D. Moderman. Sound kind of like Model Man, so I went with that. I did not put on the gold foil, by the way. There's supposed to be gold foil that goes along the engines and above the landing gear and back here. I started doing it and I didn't like it. I know the real life, they use it in real life spaceships, but kind of ironically, putting it on here made it look less realistic, but that makes more sense because you don't see that gold foil on Star Trek or Star Wars or anything like that, and it made it look less sci-fi-ish by making it look more realistic, so I kind of actually didn't like it. It does leave the engines looking a little bit plain, but I think, you know, you're not missing it there and there at all. But We have more of our decals all over the place, really spice it up. Adding a few little bits of red, I think, make it look much more interesting. Other little things I'll mention, the engines I glued into place and I glued them center. They're movable normally, you can move them around, but because I added the lights, I didn't want the wires to bend. You may want to put those up a little bit more. I just have them center on the engine. This model kit, the design of it as an actual spaceship is kind of faulty with the engine bell right above the landing gear, and also I mentioned several months ago about there's no bathroom in this thing. So you may want to have those up or further out a little bit. It's just a model kit though, so whatever. We have our other engine there. We got our door. This might be an actual mistake on the kit, by the way. There's a hole here that I was going to cover up, and then I decided to heck with it, leave it, because it kind of looks like a key slot or something. But none of the other doors have that. But it's a little thing I decided to leave. Also, you can actually see the inside of the door on the other side, and I could have painted that a little bit better. I wasn't expecting so much distance between those two areas, so it's a little icky looking in there. So you may want to paint that if you're doing your own. And we use the weathering products, so it's a little dirty, which is fine. I went back and I double weathered the legs. I just added a little bit on the bottom, and I decided to add a little bit more on top. You can do a lot in here and the recesses if, whatever you want. I did a really bad job on that engine. That side should have been facing on the inside, but I'm not pointing out my mistakes, no. But that is the whole thing, and we will get a better shot on the inside once I light it up. All right, lowered the room lighting so we can get a better look at this without ruining the ISO on the camera too much, but we have all the lights going. One of the mistakes I made on the lights is I had to replace that blue because I forgot to put a resistor on it, and it blew, ironically, out when I wired it up, and I replaced it. I think I had a flasher in there, and I replaced it with a regular one. I didn't know what color it was when I replaced it, but that would have looked better if that was a flashing LED. We have the engines, which are in there. There we go, we can see them now. Remember, those are very low powered because I wanted them low because I didn't want the engines like on and burning. And we've got the light in there. We have on the inside, if you're just watching this one and didn't watch the back, the story we have here is we have the commander, modder there, and then we have his private or whoever in the back. So one of the, his cot is in the back. He's not in the ship. He's out somewhere. But one of the cots is neat and orderly, very military, and the other one's got like little porn magazines back there, which can't really get on the camera too well. And then one of the consoles is neat and organized, and the other one's got some coffee cup over there and some magazines strewn about. So telling a small story here. He's frustrated waiting for whatever astronaut Gomer to come back, let's say that. This side is about the same with all the lighting. I have the glow lights on the bottom there, which unfortunately I didn't think to have those pointed straight, so they're a little bit off center. No biggie, but it has a little bit more color there. For some reason they're out of sync. I guess because I ran them in series, maybe one is a millisecond slower than the other one because I did them in series or parallel. I can't remember which one. But anyway, they're wired together rather than being individual wires. But it's no big deal. So that's fine that way. And we got the flashers there, of course. Those are blinking in order, I believe. It's hard for me to see both at the same time. Oh, they're slightly out of sync too. Bummer. Well, nothing I can do about that. But yeah, okay, so that is it with room lights, and now we'll do one more time with nothing. All right, so that's just with the light from my monitor on it. I tried doing it in dark and you couldn't see anything, so it was pointless we tried to show that. But there we go. The Mars hopper is complete. very long, very arduous build, but we are done with it.
I get a top shot there. I didn't get a top shot yet.
Now I'm going to do the best I can to take some really nice photos of it. I don't have a backdrop big enough for it, so I have to figure something out. But yeah, it's done, and it's going to be packed up and shipped off to Pegasus Hobbies, so yay. Time for the next project.
You know, guys, the whole situation, being stuck up here in space, forced to watch cheesy movies, interacting with other life forms, it kind of bites.
Well, you're starting to catch on, Kemosabe.